Hello guys, you're listening to Ebird Online, and today we're going to talk about Big Ed and Rose. Yes, you've guessed it, 90 Day Fiance Before the 90 Days. Episode 4, Season 10, cuts both ways. We've got so much to get into today, and I've got lots of questions for you all. So very quickly before we get into it, please don't forget to hit that red subscribe button. And also don't forget to follow me on Twitter at mbird99. So if you guys listen to me regularly, you'll know that last week I did a video which was Ed's 20 red flags. And my, he's doubled his amount of red flags in just one short week. So Ed decided last week that he didn't want to stay with Rose at her parents' house, and the truth be told, I wouldn't have wanted to stay either. But if Ed was on his game, he would have known what it was like before he even set out. So Ed decided to take Rose on holiday, but he also decided that Prince was to stay with Maria. So we catch up with this couple as they're preparing to leave, and little Prince refused to hug Ed. He gave a big hug to Mummy, and then he ran back to Maria and gave a sly little look at Ed. I think he's been watching my 20 red flags video from last week. And Rose tells us that she was very upset at having to leave Prince behind, but she only went because she wanted to strengthen the relationship with her and Ed so that she and her son can go to America. And so they were going to a beautiful island, and it was the first time that Rose had been on a flight. And you could tell that Ed wanted to be the great provider, because he said, "Is it the first time that you've flown?" "Ed, you know it is." And then when she had a drink on the aeroplane, "Is this your first drink on the aeroplane?" "Why, yes, Ed." And when she decided to have something to eat, "Yep, you guessed it. Is it your first meal on an aeroplane?" "Yes, Ed." And guess what, Ed? It's going to be the first time that Rose tells someone to F off on an aeroplane too. So they get to the hotel room, and I've got to say, it does look pretty nice. And Ed tells us that he wants to propose. I'd like to propose something too, Ed. I'd like to propose to TLC that you're struck from the rest of the series because you're so despicable. That's my proposal, and I'm waiting for TLC to get back to me. But yes, Ed says he wants to propose marriage to Rose, and it's a massive decision. And Ed brought his suitcase into the room and said, "I've got lots of surprises for you, Rose. Don't look." Ed, whenever you're around, she's always trying not to look. So his first surprise was a bikini. "That's for outside." And it was not too bad because at least it was bikini short. And then Ed brings out that purple skimpy lace lingerie that he bought back from the USA. And he says, "This is called a Teddy. And my dog's called Teddy as well." The way he's babbling, guys, lets the Ebird know he knows he's a dirty, disgusting creep. And you could see by the look on Rose's face when he presented her with this lingerie that she was not happy. And she said, "I feel shocked because I don't know how to wear it." So Ed toddles back over to his suitcase and says, "I have more surprises for you. But these are less romantic." So less romantic than the lace all-in-one crotchless body that you've just presented to me. Is that what you're saying, Ed? Less romantic than that. But what happened next, guys, even I wasn't prepared for. Ed presented Rose with mouthwash, toothpaste, and what he described as a cute toothbrush, and what we would just describe as a toothbrush. And he said, "I've given you this because, your breath is not pretty." Ed, is English your first language? It doesn't seem so. And then Ed tells production, "Yeah, her breath really smells, and I don't think she's noticed it, but I do." And then he tells her he's concerned for her health. If you get disease to your mouth, it can go to your heart and you can get sick. Can gum disease affect your heart? Bear with me, ladies and gents. I'm going to go away and check. I'm back. It turns out that halitosis can affect your heart. So Ed's quite right. I'm glad in a sense that Ed's worried about Rose's physical condition and any illnesses she might have. And Rose takes these things from him and she looks massively embarrassed, as you would be. "Ed, why would you do this in front of the cameras?" But then she drops a bomb. She informs Ed that she does know that her breath smells from time to time, but she has a stomach ulcer and she can't help it. And she said, "I always brush my teeth." And Ed said, oh right, I didn't know." "No, you didn't know because you didn't ask." And he said, "Right, I see, okay. Permission to speak. A few moments ago you said you were concerned for her health. She's telling you of a health problem. What is your concern now going to lead you to do or to say?" Ladies and gentlemen, you guessed it, nothing. He didn't even ask Rose if she could have it fixed or if she'd been to see a doctor about it, and he certainly didn't bother to apologise. And Rose was virtually in tears. She said, "I was so insulted and so embarrassed. Ed is so rude, he's such a rude person." And then Ed wore his insincere look once more and said, "From my heart, I care about you." And Rose said, "I was so embarrassed I wanted to punch him in the face." And Rose went to get changed in the bathroom and he said, "I love you." And she said, "You're ugly," in her language. And he said, "I love you. You're ugly." And he said, what does that mean? I hope it means she loves me. And it's no surprise to me that you've been single for the past 28 years, if this behaviour is anything to go by. But what really bugs me is the way that Ed keeps on saying, I love you, I love you. He doesn't love her. I'm not sure that he knows the meaning of the word, but he certainly doesn't love Rose. And she knows it. And I'd just like to take a minute out here to say how Rose conducts herself in the face of consistent attacks and slights and bad treatment from Ed is astonishing for a girl of 23. I'm shocked he hasn't got popped in the face, and I don't know if I could show such restraint. And as for Ed claims on social media and on any interview that he cares to be on that he's been demeaned all his life because of his height and because of the way he looks. But he demeans Rose at every opportunity. It's as if it's never happened to him. He has no sense of self-awareness. So even after she said, oh, I've got a stomach ulcer, he didn't say, oh dear, that's terrible. Is there anything I can help with, or are you having an operation? The only thing he said was, oh, I didn't know. You should have told me. What did you do when she did tell you? What was the outcome of her telling you? Nil. So why should she have told you? There would have been no point. And what's sad is that she knows that. And in the very forefront of my mind is the fact that Rose has left a child behind for this. Anyway, later on that evening, they go to eat, and Ed has organised a table set up on the gardens by the pool, and there's tiki lights and candles, and it's very romantic, and they have champagne on the table. And after weeks and weeks of prevaricating and talking to anybody that will listen about it, Ed finally asks Rose about the money that her sister requested from him by email. And so Big Ed asked her straight out, when I was in San Diego, your sister Maria emailed me and asked me for money. Did you know anything about that? And Rose was silent for a long time, and Rose, I like her game face actually, because it was totally blank. We have no clue. I have no clue now whether she was in on it and knew anything about it, or whether she knew nothing at all. Logic tells me I find it difficult to believe that she knew nothing about it, but we can discuss that a bit later. And then, as cool as a cucumber, Rose said, I don't know anything about that. And Ed said, you know nothing? And she said, no. And then she said, do you think I love you for your money? And he said, I don't want to think that, but why did your sister tell me not to tell you? Ed, she's already just said she doesn't know anything about it. She's not going to change her tack now, is she? And Rose tells production that she's very shocked. And she says she wants to hear her sister's side of the story, which is fairly interesting considering you haven't even really heard Ed's side of the story. You asked him no questions about it, and you sought no further details. Some might say, perhaps you already knew the details. Her sister's out of order either way. 1, Ed is not anyone that you know to be asking for money. And 2, if you did do it behind Rose's back, why are you trying to mess with her shizzle for? So Rose insists that she wasn't involved, and Ed decides very, very quickly, yeah, I completely believe her. I don't think you're involved at all. I'm 100% back on board. This whole story is weird, because Ed, you've been bollocking on about this for the last 8 weeks. Why, after a few words of you saying, I don't know anything about it, did you suddenly just believe, okay, that must be true? It doesn't make full sense to me. And I'm going to break down all my thoughts at the end of the video, and we'll go over the whys and wherefores of this. And then Ed asks, what do you want from this relationship? And Rose said to build a strong family with you and my son, and to have 2 babies with you. And yet again, Ed starts freaking out, and he tells production, I do not want any more kids, and I don't know how I'm going to tell her. So Ed hasn't told her to date he's planning on having a vasectomy, and he could have just told her now, but instead he chooses to bottle out of it, no doubt because he wants sexy time with Rose later, and he doesn't want to ruin it straight away. So he says nothing, as per usual. And the following day, Ed speaks to one of his friends, and Ed tells his friend his dilemma. And his friend said, well, you gotta tell her. And he said, yeah, I want to tell her, but I just don't want to ruin the mood. What happens if I lose her? And his friend said, give her all the reasons that you don't want kids, and give her an opportunity to make a decision. She's putting her whole life on hold for you. You must tell her. And Ed said, yeah, no, I gotta tell her, you're right. He said, yep, I know I'm right. And he said, but I'm afraid of losing her. But I'm gonna have to be honest. And that's where we end with this couple this week. So let's go back to the main 2 talking points. The first one was the stomach ulcer. It's unbelievable to me that somebody who you claim to love and who you know to be extremely poor sits in front of you and tells you, I have a stomach ulcer, and you say nothing. Not a sorry that I insulted you. Not a can we go and see a doctor together. Not a when you get to America we'll get that seen to. Not a how long have you had the ulcer. absolutely nothing. This is the clearest indication to me that Ed does not want a long-term relationship with Rose, because I think even a bum, even somebody terribly bad-minded would say, I need to help this person with this. This is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Even if just for reasons of selfishness, you'd think I need to ensure they don't die. And just a quick look on Google can tell you that stomach ulcers can be life-threatening. Ulcers can perforate through the stomach, spilling the contents of the stomach into the abdomen, which can lead to immediate death. Ulcers can also lead to gastrointestinal bleeding and many other things. It's potentially life-threatening. Ladies and gentlemen, Ed doesn't care. Let's for a second take a couple of relationships from the past couple of seasons that we think are less than stellar, shall we say. I'm going to take Tom and Darcey, which was barely a relationship. I believe if Darcey said, I've got a stomach ulcer, that Tom, yes, Tom, would come up with the money to sort out Darcey's stomach ulcer if she was unable to do so herself. I honestly believe that. I believe he'd put pictures from her bedside all over Instagram and use the whole operation for clout, but I still believe he'd do it if Annie were to tell Robert, Robert, have stomach ulcer. I believe that Robert would go cap in hand to Porno Granny and try and get some money together to fix the ulcer. But even after saying, I'm concerned about your health, showed a complete and utter lack of concern about her health. And I'm surprised that he didn't suggest injecting her with disinfectant. I'm reliably informed that works. Ed's a fake and a phony and a disgrace. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think that he wanted to marry her? I certainly don't think so, and I may well be producing another video on Ed later this week on the 10 reasons for which I don't think he ever wanted to marry Rose. I'll see if I have time. So let me know what you think about this in comments down below. The next point that I want to make is that according to Ed, he wanted to find out if Rose was involved with this whole Maria asking Ed for money scam. Now, for what it's worth, I think on the balance of probabilities, they live in this tiny little house together. I find it really difficult to believe that Maria asked Ed for money and Rose knew nothing about it. At any point, Ed could have said to Rose, your sister's asked me for money, I think it's disgusting, I'm now not coming, the whole thing's off. That could have realistically happened. This whole family is very close and I think they're in this together. They know good and well, if Rose gets to America, everybody's standard of living will raise somewhat. And so I don't know why Maria would do such a misstep at such an early point. That's just my take, I may be completely wrong. Let me know what you think in comments down below. But Ed handled it in the manner of an idiot. So he actually said to Rose, Maria asked me for money. Did you know anything about this? Really what he should have said is, because we didn't stay at your house for that long, I completely forgot to mention to Maria that money. I don't mind lending her a few dollars. Do you know what she wanted it for? Alternatively, how much did Maria want to gain because I need to cut a check? Do you know what she wanted it for? Alternatively, can I consolidate all of Maria's needs into one handy manageable payment? Alternatively, Rose, if ever you want money or if you need something, I'd rather you ask me. I would just rather have heard it from you. Silence. Speak, Rose. That way, the person's very likely, if they were involved, to think, oh, he's not that bothered. Yeah, I'll admit culpability. But no, Ed asked in such a way that she was always going to say no, regardless of her culpability. Also, Rose's game face is fantastic. I'm going to actually study her and copy it, because she gave us nothing. She looked at him blankly, and she might have been thinking over her excuse or trying to look at him to work out what she was going to say, but she gave nothing, and then she said, I don't know. Absolutely brilliant. She just gave me nothing there, nothing at all. She was very difficult for me to read. So guys, let me know what you think. Do you think Maria and Rose were in on it as a joint enterprise, or do you think that Maria just came up with the whole idea herself? And also, what do you think to the way that Ed treated Rose with regard to the ulcer? Guys, if you haven't done so yet, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I have 2 or 3 videos coming out this week. So if you hit the bell notification, you'll see them immediately. A massive thank you to everybody that has subscribed so far. You've been listening to Ebird Online. Ciao for now.